The screen fades in from black, revealing a sprawling modern mansion nestled among towering pine trees, its sleek glass walls reflecting the golden hues of a late afternoon sun. This is Silverlake, a tech mogul's paradise turned sanctuary of solitude. The camera pans across the estate, electric gates humming faintly, a pristine lawn stretching toward a forest edge, and a small greenhouse glinting in the distance. A voiceover kicks in, warm but tinged with melancholy. Silverlake wasn't always this quiet. Once it buzzed with life, laughter echoing through the halls, the clatter of keyboards from a basement lab where dreams turned into code. That was when Ethan Caldwell ruled the tech world, a visionary at 40, with a wife who lit up his life and a daughter who shared his spark. Now at 62, he's a shadow of that man, living among ghosts. Cut to Ethan Caldwell inside the mansion, standing by a floor-to-ceiling window in his study. He's tall but slightly stooped, gray hair thinning at the temples, hands clasped behind his back as he stares out at the greenhouse. His face is lined with years of grief, but his eyes, sharp, hazel, almost piercing, hint at the mind that once built a software empire. On his desk sits a framed photo, a younger Ethan smiling beside a radiant woman, Margaret, and a teenage girl with bright eyes and a crooked grin, Lily. The frame's edges are worn, touched too often by hands seeking comfort. Ethan mutters to himself, barely audible, 22 years. Where'd you go, kid? He turns away from the window, limping slightly, a reminder of an old knee injury from a hiking trip with Lily, and picks up a glass of bourbon. The liquid swirls as he takes a slow sip, lost in thought. The scene shifts to the kitchen, a stark contrast to Ethan's somber study. Stainless steel gleams under bright lights, and the air smells faintly of rosemary and garlic. Owen Parker, 24, moves with quiet precision, chopping vegetables, seasoning a roast, his dark hair falling into his eyes. He's lean, with a kind of guarded intensity, like someone who's learned to keep the world at arm's length. His chef's jacket is crisp, but there's a small tear at the cuff, a detail that says he's not here for the paycheck alone. He's been at Silverlake for 6 months, hired after the last cook quit, and he's good. Damn good. Ethan's noticed. The staff whispers about how the old man eats more now, how Owen's food seems to pull him out of his fog. But today's different. Ethan shuffles into the kitchen, glass still in hand, his gaze catching on something. Owen's rolling up his sleeves, revealing a silver ring on his left hand. It's simple, unremarkable at first, until the light hits it, and an engraving glints. To Lily, my star, Dad. Ethan freezes, the glass trembling in his grip. That ring, he made it himself, years ago in the basement lab, a birthday gift for Lily when she turned 16. She never took it off, not until she vanished. Who gave you that? Ethan's voice is low, rough, cutting through the hum of the kitchen. Owen looks up, startled, his knife pausing mid-chop. Sir? The ring. Where'd you get it? Ethan steps closer, eyes narrowing. Owen hesitates, wiping his hands on a towel. It was my mom's. She left it to me when I was a kid. His tone's steady, but there's a flicker of something, fear, guilt, in his brown eyes. Your mom? Ethan's voice rises, incredulous. That's impossible. I gave that ring to my daughter, Lily. He cuts off, breathing hard. She's been gone 22 years? You're telling me it just showed up with you? Owen shifts, uneasy. I don't know anything about that, Mr. Caldwell. It's just something I've always had. Ethan slams the glass down, bourbon sloshing onto the counter. Don't lie to me, boy. You stole it, didn't you? From this house. From her room. His finger jabs toward the ceiling, where Lily's bedroom sits locked and untouched, a shrine to a girl who never came home. I didn't steal anything, Owen says, firmer now, meeting Ethan's glare. I've never been in her room. I don't even know where it is. Then explain it. Ethan's shouting now, years of pent-up pain spilling out. Explain how a thief, a goddamn cook, ends up with my daughter's ring. Owen opens his mouth, then closes it, like he's weighing his next words. Before he can speak, footsteps echo from the hall. Helen Voss strides in. 48, sharp-featured, her dark hair pulled into a tight bun. She's Ethan's assistant, his right hand for 25 years, dressed in a tailored blazer that screams control. Her eyes dart between the two men, reading the tension like a script. "Ethan, what's going on?" Her voice is calm, authoritative, the kind that soothed him through 1,000 crises. "This kid's a thief," Ethan snaps, pointing at Owen. "He's got Lily's ring. Look at it, Helen. Tell me I'm seeing things." Helen steps closer, peering at Owen's hand. Her lips press into a thin line, but her expression stays unreadable. "That does look familiar," she says slowly. "Owen, where did you say you got this?" "From my mom," he repeats, voice tight. "That's all I know." Helen tilts her head, assessing him. Convenient story. "Ethan, we can't have this. If he's stealing—" "I'm not," Owen cuts in, heat creeping into his tone. "I've done nothing but work my ass off here." "Enough," Ethan growls. "You're done. Pack your things and get out. I don't want liars in my house." Owen stares at him, jaw clenched, then nods once. "Fine, I'll go." He unties his apron, tossing it onto the counter, and heads for the door. But as he passes Ethan, the older man grabs his arm, stopping him cold. "Those eyes," Ethan mutters almost to himself. "They're hers, Lily's." His grip tightens, then releases as if burned. Owen pulls away, not looking back, and disappears down the hall. Helen places a hand on Ethan's shoulder, her touch practiced, comforting. "You're tired, Ethan. It's been a long day. Let me get your pills. Dr. Lang said you need to stay on schedule." Ethan nods absently, still staring at the empty doorway. "Yeah, maybe I am seeing things." But his voice wavers, doubt creeping in. The camera lingers on his face. Confusion, grief, and a spark of something else. Hope? Suspicion? It's hard to tell. Outside, Owen climbs into a beat-up pickup truck, the ring glinting as he grips the wheel. He glances back at Silverlake, its lights glowing against the darkening forest, and mutters, "I'm sorry, Ruth. I tried." The engine roars to life, and he drives off into the dusk. Back in the study, Ethan sinks into his chair, the photo of Lily staring back at him. He reaches for it, tracing her face with a trembling finger. "If that's really you out there, why didn't you come home?" The screen fades to black, leaving the question hanging in the air. The voiceover returns, soft and ominous. At Silverlake, the past never stays buried, and some secrets are worth killing for. 2 days after Owen's truck rumbled out of Silverlake's driveway, the estate's quiet was shattered again. A sleek black SUV pulled up the winding road, tires crunching gravel, the late morning sun glinting off its hood. Inside were 2 women who hadn't set foot here in years, Sophie Bennett, 29, and her mom, Deanna, 55. Sophie's a cybersecurity whiz, all sharp edges and quick eyes, her dark hair tied back in a messy bun. Diana's her opposite, frail now, her once vibrant face pale and sunken, her hands trembling as she gripped the armrest. Their family. Diana was Margaret's older sister, making Sophie Ethan's niece. But Silverlake hasn't seen them since Lily vanished. Sophie parked near the front steps, cutting the engine with a sigh. "You sure about this, Mom? You don't look good." Deanna managed a weak smile, her voice raspy but firm. "I need to see him, Soph. It's been too long. And something's not right. I can feel it." She pressed a hand to her stomach, wincing, then waved off Sophie's concern. "Just help me out, okay?" Sophie nodded, though worry creased her brow. She'd noticed it for weeks, her mom's fading strength, the confusion that crept into her words, the stomach pains that came and went. It was why they were here, Diana swore it reminded her of Margaret's last months, sudden, unexplained, and deadly. Sophie wasn't one for hunches, but data didn't lie, and something about her mom's decline felt off. The front door swung open before they reached it, and there stood Helen Voss. Crisp blazer, tight bun, that practiced smile of hers not quite reaching her eyes. "Diana," she said, her tone smooth as glass. "What a surprise. Ethan didn't mention you were coming." He doesn't know," Diana replied, steadying herself on Sophie's arm. "It was last minute. I needed to see him." Helen's gaze flicked to Sophie, sizing her up. "And this must be Sophie. My, you've grown. Last time I saw you, you were, 12? Running around with Lily like little terrors?" Her laugh was light, but it felt hollow. Sophie shook her hand, firm and brief. "That was a while ago. Good to see you too, Helen." Her tone was polite, but her eyes were already scanning, taking in Helen's stiff posture, the way her fingers twitched at her side. Something about her felt too controlled, like a program hiding a glitch. "Come in," Helen said, stepping aside. "Ethan's in his study. He's been off lately. The heat, probably. I'll get your rooms ready in the east wing." She led them inside, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor, the sound echoing in the vast foyer. Silverlake's interior hit Sophie like a time capsule. Gleaming white walls, modern furniture, a massive chandelier dripping crystals overhead. It hadn't changed much since she was a kid, chasing Lily through these halls, giggling as they hid from the adults. But now it felt cold, sterile, like a museum to a life that didn't exist anymore. Diana paused by a photo on the wall. Ethan, Margaret, and Lily at a company picnic, all smiles. She touched the frame, her fingers trembling. God, we were so happy then. Helen hovered nearby, watching. Those were good days, before everything fell apart. Her voice softened, but Sophie caught a flicker of something, annoyance, impatience, before it vanished. They found Ethan in his study, hunched over a laptop, the bourbon glass from 2 nights ago still sitting half empty on his desk. He looked up as they entered, surprise flashing across his face. "Diana? Sophie?" He stood, slower than he used to, his limp more pronounced. "What are you doing here?" Diana crossed the room, pulling him into a hug he didn't expect. "I missed you, you old grump, and I haven't been well. Thought it was time to come home." Ethan hugged her back, but his eyes darted to Sophie, questioning. "Not well? What's wrong?" "It's nothing clear," Sophie said, stepping forward. "Doctors can't pin it down. Fatigue, memory lapses, stomach issues. Started a few months ago, got worse fast. She insisted on coming here." Diana pulled back, sinking into a chair with a groan. "It's like Margaret, Ethan. The way she faded. I can't shake it." Ethan's face darkened, his hand tightening around the chair's edge. "Margaret's was a fluke, a rare condition," they said. "You're just tired, Di. You've been through a lot." "Maybe," Diana murmured, but she didn't sound convinced. She coughed, a dry, rattling sound, and Sophie knelt beside her, worry etched deep. Helen slipped in then, carrying a tray with water and a small orange pill bottle. "Your midday dose, Ethan," she said, setting it down. "Dr. Lang's orders. Keeps that knee from acting up." She glanced at Diana. "I can call him for you too, if you'd like. He's been a godsend with Ethan." "No thanks," Sophie cut in, sharper than she meant. "We've got our own doctor back home. I'll handle it." Helen's smile tightened, just for a second. "Of course. Just trying to help." She turned to Ethan. "You should rest after this. I'll show them to their rooms." Ethan waved her off, popping the pill with a grimace. "I'm fine, Helen. Let me catch up with my family." He looked at Sophie, softer now. "You're staying a while, right?" "Long as Mom needs," Sophie said, meeting his gaze. "Maybe longer." Helen lingered by the door, her fingers brushing the knob. "I'll check on dinner then. Owen's gone, so it's just me in the kitchen tonight." She slipped out, leaving a faint chill in her wake. Once she was gone, Ethan sank back into his chair, rubbing his temples. "Owen, that's the kid I fired. Caught him with Lily's ring 2 days ago. Threw him out. But it's been eating at me." Sophie's head snapped up. "Lily's ring? The one you made her?" "Yeah," Ethan said, voice low. "Silver, engraved, to Lily, my star." He claimed it was his mom's, but how? Lily never took it off, and his eyes... He trailed off, staring at the photo on his desk. "They were hers, Soph, I'd swear it." Diana frowned, leaning forward despite her fatigue. "That's not possible, is it? Unless..." "Unless what?" Sophie pressed, her mind already racing. "Unless he's tied to her somehow," Diana finished, her voice barely a whisper. "Ethan, what happened that night she left? You never told me everything." Ethan sighed, heavy and worn. "We fought. She was 18, headstrong, in love with this guy. Ryan, a tech kid who worked for me. I didn't approve. Thought he was a dreamer with no backbone. Told her she was throwing her life away. She stormed out, said she didn't need me or Silverlake. That was it. Next morning her car was gone. Police found it abandoned near the old quarry, but no sign of her or Ryan." Sophie's eyes narrowed. "And you think this Owen knows something?" "I don't know what to think," Ethan admitted. "But seeing that ring, it's like she's reaching out from wherever she is." Diana reached for his hand, her grip weak but steady. "Then we find out. For Lily. For all of us." Sophie nodded, though her gut twisted. Something about Silverlake felt wrong. Helen's smile, the locked lab, her mom's fading health. She didn't have proof yet, but she'd learned one thing in her years cracking code. When the system's off, you dig until you find the bug. And she had a feeling this bug was buried deep. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the pines around Silverlake. The estate stood silent, waiting, like it knew the storm was just beginning. The next morning at Silverlake dawned gray and heavy, clouds hanging low over the pines like a lid on a simmering pot. Sophie woke early, the unease from yesterday still gnawing at her. She'd barely slept, her mind spinning with Ethan's story about Owen and that ring, her mom's frail voice echoing Margaret's name. Something was off here. She could feel it in her bones. The way you know a server's about to crash before the alerts even ping. She slipped out of the guest room, leaving Diana dozing under a pile of blankets, and headed downstairs. The house was too quiet, the kind of silence that presses against your ears. Ethan was already up, sitting in the kitchen with a mug of black coffee, staring at the spot where Owen used to stand. He looked rough, bags under his eyes, his hands unsteady, but there was a spark in him Sophie hadn't seen yesterday, like he was waking up from a long sleep. "Couldn't rest either, huh?" she said, grabbing a mug for herself. Ethan grunted, sipping his coffee. "Not after that ring. Kept thinking about Lily, her laugh, the way she'd argue with me over nothing. And that kid, huh? Owen, I can't shake it, Soph." Sophie nodded, leaning against the counter. "I'm heading into town today. Figure I'll track him down, see what he knows. You okay with that?" Ethan hesitated, then gave a sharp nod. "Yeah, just be careful. If he's got her ring, he's either a thief or..." He didn't finish, but the unspoken hung heavy. Or he's tied to her. An hour later, Sophie was driving down the narrow road into Pine Hollow, the nearest town. A sleepy little place with a diner, a hardware store, and not much else. She'd done some digging online last night, found an address tied to Owen Parker from a job listing. It wasn't hard. She was good at finding people who didn't want to be found. The address led her to a rundown apartment above the diner, paint peeling off the door, the smell of grease wafting up from below. She knocked, sharp and quick, and after a moment the door creaked open. Owen stood there, still in yesterday's clothes, his dark hair a mess. He froze when he saw her, his hand tightening on the knob. "What are you doing here?" "I'm Sophie Bennett, Ethan's niece," she said, keeping her tone even. "We need to talk about that ring." Owen's jaw tightened, but he stepped aside, letting her in. The place was small, a sagging couch, a tiny kitchenette, a duffel bag half packed on the floor. He didn't offer her a seat, just crossed his arms and leaned against the wall. "I told him what I know. It was my mom's." "That's it?" "Your mom," Sophie echoed, studying him. He had a guarded look, but those hazel eyes Ethan mentioned, they were striking, sharp, like they could see right through you. "Who was she? How'd she get a ring Ethan made for Lily?" Owen shifted, uncomfortable. "Her name was Clara. She died when I was 5, left me with my grandma, Ruth. That's all I've got. Ruth gave me the ring when I turned 18, said it was from my mom, something important. I didn't ask questions." "Ruth?" Sophie's ears perked up. "Ruth who?" "Ruth Harper. She worked at Silverlake years ago. Housekeeper, I think. Took me in after Mom passed, raised me out here. She died last year." His voice softened at that, a crack in his armor. Sophie's mind raced. Ruth Harper. She remembered the name faintly, a kind older woman who'd slip her and Lily extra cookies when they were kids. Ruth worked for Ethan. Did she ever talk about Lily? Owen hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Sometimes. Said she was a good kid, smart with tech stuff. Told me to go to Silverlake when I was ready, see Ethan myself. Didn't say why, just that I'd figure it out." "And you think that's a coincidence?" Sophie pressed. "You show up with Lily's ring looking like you could be her brother?" Owen flinched, just for a second. "I don't know what you're getting at. I'm not a thief, and I'm not some long-lost relative. I just needed a job." Sophie wasn't buying it, but she let it slide for now. "Okay, let's say I believe you. Why'd Ruth send you to Ethan?" Owen shrugged, but his eyes darted away. "She said he'd understand once he saw the ring. Guess I screwed that up." Sophie watched him, the gears turning. He wasn't telling her everything. She could smell a half-truth a mile away. But before she could push harder, her phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. "Found something in Diana's bag. Come back." "Stay put," she told Owen, heading for the door. "We're not done." Back at Silverlake, Ethan was waiting in the study, Diana still upstairs resting. He held up a small USB drive, old and scratched, the kind you'd find in a junk drawer. "This was in your mom's purse. Fell out when I moved it. Looks like one of Margaret's. She used to back up her notes on these." Sophie plugged it into her laptop, her fingers flying over the keys. It was encrypted, but she cracked it in minutes. Years of cybersecurity work made it second nature. A folder popped up labeled Private, filled with audio files. She clicked the last one, dated a week before Margaret died. Margaret's voice came through, soft but shaky. "October 12th. I'm not imagining it anymore. The pills Helen's been giving me, they taste wrong, bitter. I've been dizzy, weak, losing time. She says it's stress, but I saw her swap the bottle last night when she thought I was asleep. I don't trust her, not after what she said about Lily. She's better off gone. I'm keeping samples. If anything happens to me, Ethan needs to know." The recording cut off, and silence filled the room. Ethan's face went white, his hands gripping the desk. "She never told me," I thought. "The doctors said it was her heart, some rare thing." Sophie replayed it, her stomach twisting. Helen swapped her meds. And that comment about Lily? What the hell was she up to? Ethan shook his head, dazed. "Helen's been with me forever. She was Margaret's rock when Lily left, handled everything after. Why would she?" "I don't know," Sophie said, her voice hard. "But we're finding out. Starting with Owen." She called him back to Silverlake that afternoon. Ethan met him at the door, gruff but less hostile. "You're not off the hook, kid, but I need answers. Come in." Owen stepped inside, wary, his ring glinting as he shoved his hands in his pockets. Sophie didn't waste time. "Ruth sent you here for a reason. You've got Lily's ring, and my aunt suspected Helen of something shady before she died. What else do you know?" Owen frowned, then sighed. "Not much. Ruth didn't talk details. Just said Silverlake had secrets and Ethan deserved the truth. She was scared, though, kept looking over her shoulder, even out here." "Scared of what?" Ethan asked, leaning forward. "Someone watching her," Owen said. "She'd lock every door, check the windows. Once, she told me she'd seen something she shouldn't have, back when she worked here. Wouldn't say what." Sophie exchanged a look with Ethan. "Okay, you're staying. We need to figure this out. Together." Ethan grunted, reluctant but nodding. "Fine, but you're on thin ice, kid." That evening, as Owen unpacked in a spare room, Sophie watched him fix a flickering light in the hall. His hands moved quick, precise, like he'd done it 100 times. She froze mid-step. He'd twisted the wires the exact way Lily used to when they'd mess with Ethan's old gadgets as kids. It wasn't just the eyes, it was the way he moved. Her gut screamed he was more than some random chef. But how? Upstairs, Deanna stirred, her voice weak as she called for Sophie. "I heard you talking about Helen. Be careful, Soph. She's always been too close to this place, too close to Ethan." Sophie squeezed her mom's hand, the pieces starting to click. Ruth, Owen, Helen, Margaret's death. It was all tangled up, and Silverlake was the knot. She just had to pull the right thread. The air at Silverlake felt thicker the next day, like the house itself was holding its breath. Sophie barely slept, her laptop glowing late into the night as she combed through Margaret's audio files. Each one was a punch to the gut. Her aunt's voice growing weaker, more desperate, her suspicions about Helen sharper with every entry. By sunrise, Sophie had a plan. She wasn't just going to sit around waiting for answers. She'd drag them out of this place one way or another. Ethan was in the kitchen when she came down, sipping coffee with Owen across from him. The kid looked uneasy, like he wasn't sure he belonged there, but Ethan's gruff nod said he'd earned a temporary truce. Sophie slid into a chair, her eyes locking on Ethan's. "We need to test your meds. Mom's too. Margaret thought Helen messed with hers. Could be happening again." Ethan's mug paused halfway to his mouth. "You think she's poisoning us? After all these years?" "I don't think. I know something's wrong," Sophie said, her voice steady. "Diana's fading the same way Margaret did. You're slower than you should be, Ethan, and Helen's the one handing out the pills." Owen shifted, glancing between them. "She's always hovering, watched me like a hawk when I cooked, checked every spice jar, every plate." Ethan's jaw tightened. "All right, test 'em. But Helen's not here. K. Pine, sane, H1525. Owen frowned. "What if she's not bluffing?" "She's got access to everything," Sophie pointed out. "Your food, your meds, Diana's. If she's got a reason to hurt you, she's had 25 years to figure out how." Ethan rubbed his temples, the weight of it sinking in. "Get the pills. I'll call the lab in town. Old friend owes me a favor." Sophie grabbed the orange bottle from Ethan's study and a vial of Diana's from her room upstairs. Diana was awake, propped up in bed, her skin waxy and pale. "You're digging, aren't you?" she rasped, a faint smile tugging at her lips. "Like a dog with a bone," Sophie said, squeezing her hand. "Rest, Mom. I've got this." She drove the samples to Pine Hollow's small medical lab, dropping them off with Ethan's contact, a gruff guy named Pete who smelled like cigarettes and didn't ask too many questions. "Rush it," she told him. "Family stuff." Back at Silverlake, Helen was in the kitchen, chopping onions with a rhythm that felt too calm, too deliberate. Sophie leaned against the doorway, watching her. "You're good with a knife," she said, keeping her tone light. Helen didn't look up. Years of practice. Someone's got to keep this place running. Her voice was smooth, but her knuckles whitened around the handle. Must be tough, Sophie went on. All these years stuck out here with Ethan, no family of your own? Helen's knife paused, just for a beat. I've got all I need. Ethan's like family, more than most ever gave me. She flashed that tight smile, the one that never reached her eyes. You should rest, Sophie. You look exhausted. I'm fine, Sophie said, holding her gaze. Just curious about you is all. Helen's smile didn't waver, but something cold flickered behind it. Curiosity's a dangerous thing around here. She turned back to her onions, the conversation snipped clean. Sophie's phone buzzed as she walked away. Pete from the lab. Tetrodotoxin, he said, voice low. Fish poison. Nasty stuff. Trace amounts in both samples building up slow. Mimics a dozen illnesses. Someone's dosing them, Soph, and they know what they're doing. Her blood ran cold. Tetrodotoxin. Colorless, tasteless, deadly in the right hands. She stormed back to the kitchen, slamming the phone down. Tetrodotoxin, Helen. In Ethan's pills. In my mom's. Explain that. Helen set the knife down, slow and deliberate, wiping her hands on a towel. I don't know what you're talking about. Those meds come straight from Dr. Lang. Ethan's doctor. If there's poison, take it up with him. Her voice was ice, unshaken. You handle them, Sophie shot back. You give them out. You've got access. Helen stepped closer, her smile gone. You're accusing me of something serious, girl. I've kept Ethan alive all these years. Why would I hurt him now? Or your mother? You've got no proof, just wild guesses. I could sue you for slander. Then let's call the cops, Sophie said, unflinching. Let them sort it. Helen's eyes narrowed. Go ahead. Waste their time. I've got nothing to hide. She turned away, but Sophie caught the faintest tremble in her hands as she picked up the knife again. That night, Sophie couldn't sit still. She dragged Owen out to the old greenhouse, half collapsed, overgrown with weeds, a relic from Ethan's tech days. Ruth said something about secrets here, she told him. You ever check it out? Owen shook his head, kicking at a rusted shovel. Never had a reason. Ruth just said the truth was under the wood. Figured it was nonsense. Sophie frowned, scanning the floor. Cracked concrete, mossy boards sagging in the corners. She grabbed the shovel and pried at a loose plank. It gave way with a groan, revealing a metal box tucked beneath, rusted shut. Owen helped her wrench it open, and inside was a notebook. Lily's handwriting tight and hurried. She flipped it open, reading aloud. July 8th. Ryan and I are leaving tomorrow. Dad won't listen. He hates Ryan, says he's a nobody. But I saw Helen with Dr. Lang last night, whispering in the lab. She didn't know I was there. Lang gave her something, vials, small, unmarked. She said, it'll be slow. He'll never suspect. I don't know what it means, but I'm scared. Sophie's voice faltered, the words sinking in. Owen stared at the page, his face pale. Dr. Lang? Ethan's doctor? Yeah, Sophie said, flipping further. Another entry, dated the next day. Ryan's meeting me at the quarry tonight. If we don't leave now, I think Helen's onto us. Lang was here again, more vials. She's planning something. I took one. Proof, maybe. Tucked in the back was a tiny glass vial, empty but labeled in faded ink. TTX, experimental. Tetrodotoxin. Sophie's hands shook as she held it up. This is it. Lily caught them. Helen and Lang. They were poisoning Margaret, and Lily knew. Owen's eyes widened, the pieces clicking. Ruth must have found this after Lily left. Hid it here. And Helen got to her. Sophie finished, her voice hard. She didn't just kill Lily. She's been playing this game for decades. Ethan joined them in the greenhouse, his face ashen as Sophie read him the entries. "Lang," he muttered, stunned. "He's been my doc since Margaret died. Helen brought him in, said he was the best." "Too good," Sophie said, holding up the vial. "They're a team, Ethan. Helen runs the show here, but Lang's the brains, cooking up poison, keeping it quiet. They wanted control. Your company, your money, everything." Ethan sank onto a crate, his hands trembling. All this time, Margaret, Lily, and now you and I. "Greed?" Sophie said simply. "You built an empire. With no heirs, it'd fall to whoever's left standing. Helen's been biding her time. Lang's her ace." Owen clenched his fists, the ring glinting on his finger. "If Lily had proof, where is she? What'd they do to her?" Sophie met his gaze, her stomach twisting. "We're gonna find out. Tomorrow, we hit the quarry," where she was headed. "But first, we confront Helen. She's not getting away with this." Ethan nodded, slow but firm, a fire rekindling in his eyes. "And Lang, he's due here tomorrow." "Check up," Helen said. "We'll have them both." The greenhouse fell silent, the weight of Lily's words pressing down. Outside, the wind howled through the pines, carrying the scent of rain. Silverlake wasn't just a house anymore. It was a battlefield. And the war was about to start. The night after finding Lily's notebook, Silverlake felt like a powder keg ready to blow. Rain started falling around midnight, soft at first, then hammering the roof like it was trying to break in. Sophie barely noticed. She was too wired, pacing the study with Ethan and Owen, the vial of tetrodotoxin sitting on the desk like a loaded gun. Ethan looked older than ever, his hands clenched around Lily's photo, but there was a hardness in his eyes, a man done running from the past. Owen stood by the window staring into the dark, his jaw tight. They'd agreed, no cops yet, not until they had hard proof. That meant the quarry, and it meant facing Helen and Lang head on. Sophie checked her phone. Pete from the lab had texted. "TTX confirmed in blood samples from Deanna and Ethan. Lethal buildup. Call the sheriff now." She showed it to Ethan, her voice low. "This is it. Proof they're trying to kill you both. We've got him." Ethan nodded, slow and grim. "Then we end this tonight. Quarry first. Lily's out there. I can feel it." They grabbed flashlights, a shovel, and Ethan's old hunting rifle from the study, just in case. Sophie drove, the SUV's wipers slashing through the downpour. Ethan in the passenger seat. Owen in the back, clutching Lily's notebook like a lifeline. The quarry was 10 miles out, a jagged scar in the earth where Ethan's company once tested drones. Lily's car had been found there 22 years ago, abandoned, keys still in the ignition. No one ever looked deeper. Ethan had been too broken, the cops too quick to call it a runaway case. Now, Sophie's gut screamed they'd missed something big. They reached the quarry at 1 a.m., the rain turning the dirt to mud, the air thick with wet stone and pine. Sophie led the way, flashlight cutting through the dark, until they hit the spot where Lily's car had sat, now just a patch of overgrown weeds near the cliff edge. "She wrote she'd meet Ryan here," Sophie said, raising her voice over the storm. "If Helen caught her—" Owen pointed the shovel at a cluster of rocks piled unnaturally high. "There! Looks off, like someone stacked 'em." He started digging, mud splashing his jeans, while Sophie and Ethan scanned the shadows. The wind howled, but then a sound, sharp and close, a car engine. Headlights flared through the rain. Helen's sedan, rolling slow, no lights on until it stopped 50 yards out. She stepped from the driver's side, rain plastering her hair to her face, a shovel in one hand, a flashlight in the other. She didn't flinch when she saw them, just stared. Her calm cracking into something wild. "Should have known you'd poke around," she called, her voice cutting through the storm. You're just like Lily, too damn nosy. Sophie stepped forward, rain soaking her jacket. It's over, Helen. We've got the notebook, the vial, the lab results. You poisoned Margaret, Diana, Ethan. Where's Lily? Helen laughed, brittle and sharp. You think you've won? That notebook's nothing. Scribbles from a scared kid. The vial? Could be anyone's. You've got no body, no proof that sticks. Then why are you here with a shovel? Owen shouted, tossing a rock aside. Digging up what you buried. Helen's grip tightened, her flashlight beam swinging to him. You're the real problem, aren't you? Showing up with that ring, stirring Ethan's ghosts. I knew Ruth kept something. Should have finished her sooner. Ethan raised the rifle, steady despite the rain. What'd you do to my daughter, Helen? Tell me or I swear. Or what? Helen sneered. You'll shoot me? You're too weak, Ethan. Always were. Lily was the same, running off with that punk Ryan, thinking she could outsmart me. She saw me with Lang, thought she'd play hero. Didn't work. Sophie's heart pounded. You killed her. Here, didn't you? Helen's smile twisted, rain streaking her face. She came at me screaming about Margaret, waving that vial like it'd save her. I hit her. Shovel to the head, went down quiet. Ryan showed up looking for her, so I pushed him off the cliff. Easy. 2 birds, 1 night. Owen froze, the shovel slipping in his hands. You're lying. Am I? Helen stepped closer, her voice dropping. Buried her right where you're standing. Figured I'd move her tonight, clean slate. You forced my hand. Before anyone could move, a second figure emerged from the car. Dr. Victor Lang, thin and wiry, his glasses fogged with rain, a pistol gleaming in his hand. Enough talk, he barked, aiming at Sophie. You've got no witnesses, no body they'll find. This ends now. Sophie dove behind a rock as Lang fired, the shot cracking through the storm, missing her by inches. Ethan swung the rifle up, but Lang was faster. Another round grazed Ethan's arm, blood blooming dark on his sleeve. He stumbled, cursing, the rifle slipping. Owen lunged, tackling Helen as she swung her shovel at Sophie. They hit the mud, grappling, her nails clawing at his face. Sophie scrambled for the rifle, heart slamming, and aimed at Lang. Drop it, she yelled, finger on the trigger. Lang hesitated, then smirked. You won't shoot. You're not a killer. A roar cut the air. Ethan, back on his feet, charging Lang with a fury Sophie didn't know he had left. He slammed into the doctor, fists flying, the pistol spinning into the mud. They wrestled, Ethan's bad knee buckling, but he landed a punch that cracked Lang's jaw. The man crumpled, glasses shattering, out cold. Sophie turned to Owen. Helen had him pinned, her shovel raised. Sophie fired a warning shot into the dirt, the boom echoing. Back off, Helen, or the next one's yours. Helen froze, panting, then dropped the shovel, her eyes blazing. You think this saves you? I ran this place, kept Ethan alive when Margaret couldn't, when Lily bailed. It was mine. Ethan staggered over, blood dripping, and grabbed her collar. You took my family, my daughter. For what? This house? Money? His voice broke, raw and ragged. Helen spat at him, rain mixing with the mud on her face. For you, you idiot. I loved you, watched you waste yourself on them. I deserved it all. Owen shoved her off, standing over her as he dug again, faster now. The rocks gave way, and there, bones, weathered and broken, a silver ring glinting on a skeletal finger. Lily. He sank to his knees, a choked sound escaping him. Mom! Ethan dropped beside him, touching the ring, tears mixing with the rain. My girl, I'm so sorry. Sophie lowered the rifle, her chest tight. We've got her, Ethan. It's done. Sirens wailed in the distance. Pete must have called the sheriff after all. Helen laughed, a cracked, hollow sound, as deputies swarmed in, cuffing her and dragging Lang's limp form away. You'll never prove it, she hissed, but her eyes were wild, defeated. The rain slowed as dawn broke, gray light spilling over the quarry. Sophie helped Ethan up, his arms slung around her shoulders, while Owen cradled Lily's ring, his face unreadable. Deputies cordoned off the site, radios crackling, body found, suspects in custody. Back at Silverlake, the days blurred. Ethan spent hours in the hospital, his arm patched up, the tetrodotoxin flushed from his system with heavy doses of antidote. Diana pulled through too, weak but fighting, her color creeping back. Doctors said it was a miracle, but Sophie knew it was her mom's stubborn streak, same as Margaret's. They buried Lily a week later, a quiet ceremony in the estate's garden, white roses circling a simple stone. Lily Caldwell, beloved daughter and mother. Owen stood beside Ethan, the ring back on his finger, his hazel eyes locked on the grave. Ethan clapped a hand on his shoulder, voice rough. "You're hers, kid. My grandson. Should have seen it sooner." Owen nodded, swallowing hard. "She'd want me here, with you." Sophie watched them, a weight lifting she hadn't known she carried. "You're family now, Owen. Both of us are." Ethan managed a faint smile, the first real one in years. Damn right, no more secrets. Diana joined them that afternoon, leaning on a cane but upright, her eyes bright. "Lily'd be proud of all of you, and Margaret, she'd say we beat the bastards." They laughed, soft and shaky, the sound cutting through the stillness. Sheriff came by later. Helen confessed in lockup, spilling everything for a lighter sentence. Lang didn't make it, internal bleeding from Ethan's punch, dead before trial. Justice, messy, but final. Weeks passed, and Silverlake changed. Ethan opened the old lab, letting Owen tinker with the gear, his hands quick and sure like Lily's. Sophie stayed on, training him to run the estate. Tech, finances, the works. Ethan rewrote his will. Owen and Sophie, equal heirs, the empire theirs to rebuild. One evening they stood in the garden, the new rose bushes blooming red against the dusk. Sophie nudged Owen, her voice light. "So, what's next, cousin?" He grinned, a rare, real smile. "Keep this place alive." For them. A breeze carried the scent of roses, and from Lily's grave a single petal drifted free, catching the light. Ethan watched it go, Diana at his side, and for the first time in decades, Silverlake felt like home again.